Welcome back, Star Wars fans, to Coruscant Radio Underground here on the Science Fictionary. I'm Andrew here with Marisha. Not as always, because
As usually.
as usually with Marisha.
I'm usually here.
Yeah, it's true. So we're here to talk about the Acolyte, episode 4, and all the things that didn't happen.
It was a little anticlimactic.
Yeah, so I've seen elsewhere that this next week's episode is handled by the same director.
Okay.
So I have long suspected that some of these episodes get cut up after it's all made.
Yeah.
That they're still making that like a big movie and then cutting it up how they want.
That makes sense. I kind of
It's
felt that way
terrible,
about
though.
Kenobi.
No, Kenobi was
I
very
feel
guilty
like
of that.
Kenobi was really more a victim of editing problems than anything else.
Well, it was a victim of a few other things. There were some storytelling problems there too,
But most of the things that bothered me the most were like,
continuity
how do you
issue.
manage to run down the stairs in the same time it takes her to fall down?
Well, he's a Jedi. He doesn't have to run downstairs, but
whatever. It was those kinds of things. It was like these two things don't match up.
No, it was the way they chose to show it.
Mm-hmm.
Weird things you keep hearing, like, oh, there wasn't the budget to do such and such. Like, supposedly there's not the budget to bring Yoda on for this. However, this is like they're spending movie money on these TV shows, so I have a hard time believing they can't.
And I mean, for one scene, have Puppet Yoda. Puppet Yoda was perfectly good for a very long time of Yoda.
Yeah. No, I mean, I would be if they were to bring Yoda on, I would want it to be Puppet Yoda. But I mean, it also the expense of bringing on Frank Oz, and I don't know what kind of money he demands, but like,
not too much. He's freaking Frank Oz. How many people would have showed up just to watch see Yoda?
With the in the absence of Jim Henson,
yeah,
Frank Oz is the king of puppeteers currently.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I mean, yeah, you pay a guy like Frank Oz what he wants, but I don't know.
I mean, who are they paying? Like, it's not that they're not paying people, but it's not like they have any huge names that are drawing just exorbitant
yeah, so I mean they are doing a fair amount of CGI on a show like this, although I would say not as much. They're trying to cut corners with some of that, although I would argue that the graphics work to do lightsabers, it's really not that complicated. You can find dozens upon dozens upon dozens of YouTubers who are doing lightsabers that look better than, to be honest, anything we've seen on Disney Plus.
Right.
They're trying
in their basements.
Yeah. So they're using I don't know if you've noticed the lightsabers, they just keep getting bigger and bigger because they're trying to use things that are emitting some level of glow on their own.
Right.
So they're putting bigger and bigger battery packs in them, and I still frankly don't get that because I mean you've got tons of companies making things like this. It doesn't have to be huge to have these batteries have been in this thing for 6 months.
And they're AAAs. Put a couple of D-size batteries in there,
Yeah. I mean, this thing, you move up to a D, it gets a little bigger.
But even
but
so,
you don't need, but my point is you don't need it.
Yeah.
A handful of rechargeable AAAs.
I'm sorry.
I mean, well, not to mention you can buy that exact same saber with a rechargeable battery. You plug it into a wall.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
That's what the cousins got for Christmas. They all got rechargeable lightsabers.
Yeah. So I don't know. There was a question going around earlier today on what Star Wars show has the highest production value, which of course is, I suspect there are people that will make subjective claims.
Who just basically take it as which one do I like the best?
Yeah, and that's not the question because Andor is not my favorite Star Wars show.
Mm-hmm.
It's like maybe third.
Mm-hmm.
but objectively,
Beautiful.
it is
Hmm.
better. Its production values, it's not a better show, not a better Star Wars show per se,
Right.
but it has better production values.
Hmm.
It should be the benchmark that all of these shows are reaching for.
Yeah.
Um, and it's clearly not. It's
Yeah.
and of course, we're kind of talking about things really that don't affect. I mean, so I'm not going to say that a fatter lightsaber is affecting the show and making it bad.
Yeah.
That's an as far as quality of the show, that's a nitpick.
Hmm.
But for the look of it, they're getting almost, if you look especially at some of the female actors, they're getting almost too big for them to wield.
Hmm.
They're getting,
Yeah.
if you look at the way they're holding them, they're getting almost to the point where
Yeah, they're just too big.
you just can't hold it right if your hands aren't big enough.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What did you think overall about this episode?
So there was a lot of talk of, I mean, I feel like the last couple of episodes, there's been like, oh, this is where it gets bad. It
Yeah.
was fine. There wasn't anything, I mean, there wasn't really even anything that I was just like, ugh, that kind of really made me cringe.
No.
Except for it, I just didn't feel like very much happened. So you've been floating a theory for a while that definitely is either the direction they're going, or it's the direction that they want us to believe they're going.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the hints have been there since episode 2
Mm-hmm.
that Kymer is. I don't know if this guy is supposed to be a Sith or an acolyte himself.
He looks like a video game character.
Yeah, so yeah, a lot of the digital stuff. I think where we're at with a lot of CGI now is that if it's CGI done cheaply, winds up looking like modern video games.
Because modern video games are so good.
Yeah.
Um,
But it's still not what
not
we want.
CGI though, is it?
The helmet's not CGI. No, I don't think anything with that costume CGI. But
Venom. That's what it reminds me of. It's very Venom to me.
yeah. I don't love the helmet, but I don't hate it. It's
fine. It's dark. It gets I'm sure it gets what they're going for.
But I've been, yeah. I mean, when we discussed episode 2, our first review of this show, I floated the idea that I thought Kymer was whatever this
Master is.
I think, to some extent, he's sending her out, and then he's taking, coming out as this other persona to watch and see what she does. It might be true. It might be a total misdirect.
Yeah,
but at this point, it's intentional. I initially thought after last night's episode, my first reaction to it was, oh, well, now they're not even like they're just. My initial reaction was, though, they're being lazy with it.
Mm-hmm.
As far as if they're going to put a spin on this, although they keep kind of walking up. It's not the first time in this show where they've walked up and kind of acted like there was going to be a twist, and then there's no twist.
I mean, the whole like twist culture
it's not
movies.
Yeah,
it's not sustainable indefinitely.
This is J.J. Abrams' fault, among a few other people. It's mystery boxes.
Yeah.
This show, they are juggling so many mystery boxes.
Yeah.
And I don't think they can stick the landing on all of them.
I'll be right back. I think I hear a child cry.
Okay.
I think that you tend to be right though. Give me just 1 second.
Okay. And so what I'm talking about, I mean, we've got a number of mystery box things here with, who is our villain. We started off with the one where they kind of acted like the one twist that turned out to not be a twist at all, which was May is dead, and then just a few minutes later, May is not dead. It was like that was a little bit of a lazy twist, or you could have drawn that out in some way. But I don't know, the mystery boxes of the Jedi continue talking about what is this, that these four Jedi who were on this planet where Osha and May are from, then I'm going to forget the name of the planet, that they were stationed on that planet. But the other indication there is that's not the case, because we have Jedi stationed throughout the galaxy, and at least twice now we've had Jedi reference that maybe Vernestra both times, I'm not positive about that, that Saul and Kelnaka and Endara and Torben were stationed on this planet, but that doesn't actually seem to be the case. We also have some weirdness in this episode that I'll try to wait till Marisha gets back to talk about, where May just suddenly decides, oh, I don't need to do this anymore, which seems to hinge on a promise made to her by whoever this villain is. I don't know. That seemed abrupt.
She's okay. We had a terrible catastrophe with our mask that we're making for Comic-Con this weekend. Apparently it was devastating and involved many tears. She's fine. I just wanted to make sure that, when you hear teenage girls start crying, it could be sad. So anyway, now I'm back.
So the whole thing, what I was talking about while you were gone, was some of these kind of mystery boxes where Vernestra, I can't remember if it was Vernestra both times, has been mentioned across 2 episodes.
She's the green one?
Yeah. That Saul and these other 3 Jedi were stationed on the planet where May and Osha are from.
Right.
That doesn't actually seem to be the case. They seem to have showed up there on a mission.
Right. Like when they're on a mission isn't the same as like.
Right. Because we do have Jedi who are stationed around the galaxy. So it seems like, why is that a mistake in the, like, is that something that got changed in the script as they went and they didn't go back and fix that? That's my fear with that one, is that we're going to keep getting this reference to they were stationed there, but they were actually on a mission, and that we're just not going to address it. So that's mystery box number 1 up in the air. What are you doing? The second is, and what my biggest complaint with this episode last night, other than the fact nothing happens, I until the very last, it's very short episode, and then nothing happens till like the last 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And then we do, I'll get to that in a second. But the other thing there is May just quits. It's like, oh, I don't actually need to do. We've kind of built up this thing with May's evil, May's bad, May's, the opposite of Osha.
And furthermore,
although we still don't know, it should be pointed out that it's very possible that May was under someone else's control when she tried to kill Osha.
Yeah, it was weird. And not only have we been setting her up as particularly evil, we've also sort of had this narrative where she had some kind of justification, or at least somebody owed her, like she was damaged and harmed in some way.
Yeah, that the vendetta was personal.
Right. And so all of a sudden when she's like, sister being alive changes everything. Not that it wouldn't, but like,
but we thought she hated her sister. I mean, I figured her sister would be on the target list here. But then we get this just like out of nowhere idea, because we don't see a conflicted May.
Right.
May's not conflicted about killing these Jedi.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I don't need to kill them anymore. It's like, I need to kill them because they did a terrible thing to me and my people.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, oh, never mind. My sister's alive. We're all good. It's like, that comes so out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. And is kind of another thing. So what is the promise that our Sith or whatever he is made? Because it seems that what she says is, the promise doesn't matter anymore because Osha's alive.
So I
So is there
feel
a promise of bringing OSHA back to life somehow? Is there, or is it just a promise of revenge for
Mhm.
OSHA's death because she believes OSHA died?
Right. So it's very bizarre to me. So it's like, was your motivation all of this time following the assignment, or was it personal? Because if the assignment was if the motivation was this is the assignment, and all of a sudden the situation changes, then that makes perfect sense. You should be like, never mind, don't
Yeah,
care.
and this is the problem with morally gray stuff.
Mm.
And again, I'm okay. This is somebody's going to say, "Oh, it's all got to be good versus evil." It doesn't. There can be gray stuff. This is the problem with presenting gray in this way, though. Is at the end of the day, she's still a murderer.
Right.
Now she's going to go turn herself in. So there's that. That's and go to jail. She knows that's what's going to happen. So it's like, okay, she gets that, but we're going to say she was bad. But why? Now we don't know. We're very clouded on why she was bad, why she's doing bad things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't have, all of a sudden her motivations are very, very murky.
Yeah.
And that I think was honestly the biggest thing that happened in this episode is we had a pretty good idea of the direction that our characters kind of were going, and now we're like,
well, the only other thing that happens in this, I mean, so really most of the episode is we get permission to go to a planet. We talk about going to the planet and we go to the planet. Like that's 95% of the episode. We have this tracker that was just used. I mean, talk about, you're saying we don't have the budget. One of the things I'm gonna say, I don't know if it was I think it was the writer of the episode out there today saying, because a lot of the complaint was you had this Wookiee, you brought in Eunice Suetamo to play the Wookiee.
You let him stamp around for like
and then
5 minutes.
And then you did nothing with him. He's basically Bigfoot stomping through the woods, and then you kill him off screen.
Yeah.
Now I know we're going to get a flashback. There's shots of a flashback where we're going to see him fight.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to see that, I think, but at the same time, it's like you claim the writer literally claimed, oh, but we didn't have the budget to do the fight and kill the Wookiee on screen. It's like, but you created this. I'm sorry, I'm all for aliens and Star Wars. I don't even mind that they did it, but the little gopher,
much more gophery than badger,
whatever he is, they created that. That's basically all CGI.
Yeah.
And so they
no reason.
They created that character. That character is not important to the story.
No.
For several reasons. One, these are Jedi. They should be able to go track Kilnaka. Like, we don't need they also have this sentient character that we're going to treat like a coonhound. So we're going to have this character. We're going to treat him like a scent dog. This thing, I'm a hunter. I've hunted with scent hounds. You don't just give them the smell of something and then turn and say, look at this giant forest. Here's the smell. Go find it. It's like, you got to find the trail and then put the dog on the trail.
And the trail can't be like 6 months old.
And it can't be 6 miles wide at the start. Like you've got it. Like, that was weird. That was somebody that didn't understand how scent tracking works, which was probably, I mean, could have been solved with a real simple phone call and no expense. But whatever. But my point is like, I'm all for aliens. It was kind of a cool addition.
Yeah. But
it serves zero purpose, and you spent all this money on this character just to turn around and say, oh, we killed the Wookiee off screen because we didn't have the budget.
And we couldn't have Yoda because we didn't have the budget, but we had the budget for this.
Right. Which is not a CGI Wookiee. It's a guy in a costume.
Right.
So I don't know if they were refusing to pay Eunice for more than a day of stomping around the set like Bigfoot or what, but I don't know. I felt like there are a lot of things that felt like they happened way too quickly in this episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like, here's our problem. How do we fix it? Okay, there we go. It's like I feel so, having done that 48-hour movie. I feel like they were writing in progress.
Yes. And I actually had a similar thought. I was like, you can understand if you're putting a project together in 48 hours, you've got some, like, you get to the end and you're like, that's kind of a gap. Right? Because you're sort of making it up as you go.
Yeah.
But like, this is daggum. I mean, they've got more money than God at Lucasfilm.
No, you're literally making TV shows that you probably will never recoup your money on.
Like,
and you know that, and you're still willing to throw $200 million at it, but then you cheap out on weird things.
Yeah. Like, why are we not? Why aren't we doing? Why aren't we putting our pieces together properly? There's no excuse for not having a coherent story. If there are this many fingers in the pie.
Yeah, that's the story, but it also seems a little bit like no one is there saying, yes, you can spend money on that. No, you can't spend money on that. It's like the money's just getting, and maybe that's, I mean, Lucasfilm, basically everything at Disney, but Lucasfilm and Marvel both have totally out of control budget spending.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's going on there, why their movies are costing way more than everybody else's to make. They don't look better.
Mm-hmm.
They don't look better than most of the other stuff out there today. I mean, the quality of CGI, and this is not a knock on the graphic artists, because I know how stretched thin they are,
mm-hmm.
and the ludicrous hours they work.
Yeah.
But the quality of CGI has declined so much over the last like 15 years.
Yeah.
I mean, go back and look at things like Pirates of the Caribbean 2 and 3.
Mm-hmm.
Go back and look at the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Go back and look at things.
Which holds up, by the way, on a big screen.
Oh, on big screen looks
20 years. We went and saw it the other day, and it was like it holds up on the big screen as well as it ever did. Legolas on top of the cave troll, still a little wonky.
Yeah, but the Legolas on the cave troll gets a little squirrely. There was only ever one scene CGI wise that bothered me in Lord of the Rings. It's when Frodo throws Gollum off the cliff. He looks so, it's like, because everything's mocap right up till that, and it's like this thing flailing as it goes down in the hole. So
what happens when you take Andy Serkis out of the suit, I guess?
Yeah, I guess so, but
just digital.
Well, I didn't want to throw Andy Serkis off a cliff, I don't suppose.
They could have thrown him off of like a wall with a mat at the bottom.
They could have just not shown him fall.
Anyway, not to derail the conversation, but
that's what we do around here.
It's true. Lots of derailing.
But overall, I mean, I'm going to go back and I'm going to give this episode a C, like I gave episodes 1 and 2. I like this. I'm calling him a Sith, but we still don't know actually, what he is exactly.
And he's a dark side user. He uses a red lightsaber. Can we just make a rule where if they use a red lightsaber, we just call him a Sith and be done with it?
Yeah. And I suspect that this is someone tied to, I don't know, Plagueis's master or someone.
I would love to actually explore some of that a little bit.
Yeah,
the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise.
There's real risk in diving into that, though.
But there's a really excellent acid jazz version of that story available on YouTube, courtesy of Cam Ray.
That's true. So I don't know, but I mean, I'm going to give this. I gave last week's episode a B. I thought it was a marked improvement over the first two. I actually think that this one takes a step back down to a C for me. It's not, I'm not ready to throw it out. I'm not ready to give it a total fail.
Mm-hmm.
But
so
it's really flirting with messing up in a lot of places. And I mean, I know there's a lot of complaints. Everybody, the big talking point today is, they ruined Ki-Adi-Mundi's age, because Ki-Adi-Mundi from the prequels appeared in this episode. They did confirm.
Cone-headed guy.
Yeah, they did confirm that is Ki-Adi-Mundi.
I thought so.
but it did retcon previous information from the prequel era that would have had him born a few years after this.
They kind of stretched the ages of the Green character too, didn't they? Wasn't she from the Old Republic or from the High Republic?
We're still in the High Republic era.
Right. But
I don't think we're that far removed.
Okay.
The High Republic, that gets confusing because they said 1,000 years before.
Right.
And then they came back and said about 500 years before. And then it was, it's only about 100 years before. It was like, again, the condensing of the timeline that I've been complaining about for a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Look, I'm okay with a lot of the things in this episode, except for the biggest problem I have is May. The little gopher character, unnecessary, but it's a nitpick to I think it's a nitpick to say, I can't say it was a bad character. It was a bad use of the character.
Yeah.
But it was an unnecessary character. My biggest complaint about it is the budgeting.
Yeah.
Because don't turn around and say you didn't have money to do certain things that would have been better.
Right.
Now, obviously, story-wise, they didn't want to show us who killed the Wookiee.
Right.
But clearly the Wookiee's just assassinated. I mean, this Wookiee's going down without a fight here because he's just like chilling in his chair with a big slash wound across his chest.
Which is definitely a lightsaber wound, right?
Yeah. But that's the thing. They just didn't want to show us who killed the character.
Yeah.
But you turned around, and I would have said fine if they hadn't turned around and then revealed said character 2 minutes later.
Right.
So it's like, then it becomes, I would have accepted it more if the writer had come out today and said, well, we didn't want to reveal, who killed this character or that he was dead before she got there. We wanted that surprise. I'd have been good with that explanation.
Yeah.
But we didn't have the budget. Not an acceptable excuse.
Not a good excuse in Star Wars.
Right.
Like, find, everybody out here making, movies on $1 million is like, find a better excuse.
Right. So, yeah, but I'm going to give it a C. I mean, what are you thinking as far as?
I think that's fair. Like I said, I didn't have any problems with it. And honestly, if the episode had been twice as long and there had been a little more I just felt like it was like, we talked about it, finally get there. And then it's like we dragged off the first part of the story a little too long, considering the amount of time we were taking to tell this story. And then it was like, boom, 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 all the things. And then
all the interesting things are compressed into the last
like 5 minutes,
maybe less. I'd have to go back and look at it, but everything interesting is compressed into a really short stretch of time there.
And honestly, I feel like, in fact, whenever she walked up to the hut where the Wookiee lives, you said he's dead.
Yeah.
And if they are going the direction where the buddy whose name I can't remember, Kymer, where Kymer is not who he appears to be, then it really, there's no.
Yeah. Now
it takes a lot of the surprise element of surprise out of that.
Right. I do want to mention, because I've seen a lot of people say, oh, he's supposed to be the big bad. He may or may not be the big bad. Now, I'm fully acknowledging, like I said, after episode 2, I was convinced it was him. This one, they made it, in my opinion, made it so obvious that it's him that now I'm afraid it's a red herring.
Yeah, which it could be.
But a lot of people are saying, oh, so this, Sith Lord got caught in a Wookiee's trap, and all this.
No, it's obviously.
Well, so here's the thing, is like, one, if he is this, he can get out of this trap, no problem. But it's like, are you going to go back to Empire Strikes Back and acknowledge Yoda acting like an insane person? for the first 10 minutes after we meet him, just because he's kind of like playing the fool to see how Luke responds.
I was so shocked as a kid when I was like, I had exactly the reaction they wanted you to have. I was like, little crazy weird green guy is the Jedi Master, say it ain't so.
Yeah. Now, again, if at this point, if we go, we're halfway. If we drag out the next 4 episodes and don't reveal that it's Kymer until episode 8, at that point I'm gonna be like, okay, but you basically like revealed it. Like, if you don't reveal it in episode 5, then you've got to do something way more clever at the end.
And honestly,
and that's my fear, is that they're setting up all these mystery boxes and then they're not going to do anything clever at all.
I mean, I guess again, it just kind of is going to have to, just going to have to see, because there's, it's one of those reserving judgments till we know how it's going to come out, because it's just all such a question mark at this stage.
And that's the thing, is it's hard to judge fully because there aren't enough pieces on the table. Andor was a little longer than this. Andor was 12 episodes, but at the halfway point of Andor, I had just about given up.
Yeah.
I think it was right about the halfway point where I stayed up, because that's when they were dropping them at 2 a.m. here locally. And I stayed up until 2 o'clock to watch it and was pissed off.
Because nothing happened.
Because nothing happened. Because
there was at least one of those episodes in the middle of Andor that it was like, really? Like nothing.
Yeah, that's kind of where we were on it the first half. And that's why I gave it a C, because you're saying a 4 of 10 for the first half and an 8 of 10 for the second. I gave it a C rating, because I do feel like it starts to kind of come back together at the end of the episode. But that first half of the episode, like you said, ping-ponging all over the galaxy. It was this, like, everything's happening way too fast and way too conveniently.
Yeah.
It was like we either needed a little drama in making these things happen.
Right.
Or we needed to slow it down a bit, or we just needed to not even include some part that, I mean, honestly, we don't need to have multiple conversations with Vernestra about the fact that we're going to go do this mission.
No,
we don't. I mean, honestly, do you feel like anything is missing at all if he doesn't have that conversation with Vernestra? If we just skip to a scene where
nothing at all is missing if we don't have Vernestra, period.
No, that's true. Vernestra doesn't add anything to this show so far.
No, I mean, she's just, besides being kind of unpleasant.
No, I mean, the only purpose she really serves is she's one of the 2 characters showing us everything wrong with the Jedi at this point.
Yeah.
Her and Yord.
And maybe that's kind of what she's there for, though. I mean, because I think
it's important to show that.
It is.
The Jedi are.
It's kind of boring, but on the other hand,
it also, forces you to look at the Jedi and go, okay, the Jedi are falling from
the heights. Yeah, I think so. That is a good point, though, that they were letting the audience know they're keeping things from the council.
Yeah.
And that, I guess, that if they wind up doing anything with that, that's important.
Right. But you can accomplish the same thing with one line of dialogue in the scene where they're planning to go to the planet.
Yeah.
That we're doing this off the books, under the table, whatever, however you want to say it. One line of dialogue replaces a whole actress. And
also, man, whenever Osha is telling Yord, it's like, tell it, or my old friend, I need you to take care of this if I can't, and he just totally blows her off. He's a total jackass to her. That was not.
No, I don't get the people that are obsessed with Yord.
Ew.
Yord's a terrible, terrible character. Like, okay, so when I say terrible character, he's terrible.
Yeah.
I think
he's a terrible person.
I think the actor's doing a great job. If that's the point, the actor is doing a really good job of portraying that he's a terrible person. So yes. When I said terrible character, I think he's an interesting character. but not a character anybody should be like admiring.
No, no, he's horrible. And particularly that the response that he has whenever she's like, being vulnerable with him, and like, I mean, that's, and he just like, I was like, man, that's just not nice at all. I mean,
Yeah.
just, you could say like, something, yeah, I'm here for you. I don't know. It's just not a fan, huh, Andrew?
Are you talking? Are you talking about us, or are you talking about the Acolyte?
Clearly us.
Oh
Oh, man, it's so sad.
man. But this wasn't the worst episode of the show, but it was the most boring episode of the show.
Yeah, it was. Like I said, especially if once we had kind of discussed, you had kind of reiterated your pitch that oh, he's the bad guy, then it was no surprise whenever you should kind of the things, if you assume that then everything else was not really surprising.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know where it goes from here.
One more thing.
Mm-hmm.
The show is billed as a mystery.
Well, just because you have a bunch of mystery boxes doesn't make anything.
It's not a mystery.
Okay, it
could be.
It depends on who. It depends on who the master is. If it's Keimer, it's not much of a mystery because they basically gave that away in episode 2, which is why now I'm starting to feel like Keimer's a red herring because they made it so obvious that I think they want everybody to think it's Keimer.
Yeah.
I don't know. I still think it's Keimer. But the other, the more interesting pitch out there is that it's the mother, the one that carried the twins.
Okay.
That's a possibly more interesting pitch. Especially, I think the problem is we still need to see how the other part of. We still don't know what the Jedi did that they're so ashamed of.
Right, but it still doesn't feel like. Okay, so I feel like this kind of hits the nail on the head. It's a mystery for the characters, but it doesn't feel like a mystery. If you're billing your show as a mystery, it's like a whole bunch of like random unanswered questions is not a mystery make.
Right.
It's not, it doesn't feel like we have.
Well, the answer to the question, they haven't asked us, like, the only thing that's a mystery is who is this villain. But it's honestly the problem with that as the mystery is it's not important.
It doesn't. Right. Exactly.
It doesn't really matter unless it's Darth Plagueis.
Right.
Unless it's Plagueis or unless they're going to make Palpatine a lot older than we thought he was. And I don't think that's the case. I'm just throwing that out there. But if that's the big mystery, it doesn't matter. Now, if the mystery is how the twins were created, which that is one of our mystery boxes, is that they were created by some sort of unnatural, dark side usage.
So I've been thinking, I don't think it's cloning.
No.
Because although I kind of like cloning in kind of in isolation for this story, I think especially with the direction that they've gone with the sequels, where there's so much effort to create, there's so much of the rest of the story that centers around force sensitive clones. I think that if they had created force sensitive clones this recently,
that becomes a real problem.
Then that becomes, if that's the case, then all of a sudden you've created a big continuity issue with this, everything in the sequel era. I mean, The Mandalorian, the entire sequel trilogy, it just all becomes like a really, it just becomes.
So I'm hoping for something, honestly, I'm hoping it's something really dark and twisted. Like, I hope it's something a lot more twisted than we use the dark side of the force to create life. Like, these are the life essence of other beings.
Yeah, that's actually kind of what I was thinking. Some sort of like we've extracted, and I mean, that's a really classic fantasy trope, is that you don't never get something for nothing, right? If you create a life, then it costs a life.
Mhm.
So, and that could also explain why the witches are unpopular.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Some kind of sacrifice, some kind of, we have stolen, the essence of something else and put,
Yeah. This is someone else's life that we've taken and made it something else.
right. So, like you said, I hope that, and I kind of feel like they're setting the witches up to be like some kind of misunderstood, like feminist coven.
I think so too, but I think they can do that and still make them dark by they're not all on the same page. I do think that some people have thrown, and I can't remember either of the mothers' names. There's so many new names.
Corel is the one with the horn.
That's the one I'm thinking of. There's a lot of people throwing around the idea that she's actually kills all the other witches. That's what we haven't seen yet.
Okay.
I think that's a good theory. I don't know if it's, I don't know if it's true or not. It's wild speculation at this point, but
yeah,
I think that's possible.
The most boring end of this story is the Jedi killed them all. Perhaps what?
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, I think there's something. I need it to be more twisted than I need it to be more different and more twisted than a dark side version of Anakin's story.
Yes, definitely.
Now granted, these were created by this witch. The Anakin is, as far as we know, was created purely of the Force, independent of, as a response to darkness.
Exactly.
Not because of anyone doing anything. But yeah, I think there are some things that we can do here, kind of like what Jedi of Chicago is saying here. There are some real good ideas. I'm not convinced that by the way the writers are writing this so far, I'm not sure they'll get there. Andrew said something back up here. Yeah, halfway through the season and the story, really, we have done very little to progress any one character's story. We've had a little bit of story, like May's stories progressed a little bit. Not May, Osha. May's stories progressed, but not in a way that makes sense so far. Now they can still explain it, but we still don't understand why May suddenly drops her vendetta against the Jedi.
Yeah. Go ahead, continue. I have another thought though. Once you get done with it.
No, go ahead.
Did you get the impression that Osha wants Soul to ask her to come back to the Jedi?
Yes.
Like, I feel like that's what she's like. Oh, are you asked me to come back? No. She's like, oh. It's like, so is that? I mean, honestly, if that's, I wouldn't hate it if that's where she lands. Or in some sort of, some sort of, Force user, middle ground, maybe a wise woman on a planet somewhere. But I thought that was an interesting, since she's kind of been so adamant about having left the Jedi. And every time we've seen a character in the past,
we don't know yet for sure why she left. That's another thing that they haven't.
Yeah, that's true. Well, she has said that she couldn't let go of her attachments.
Yeah, and so it may be as simple as that.
Right.
But we'll see.
I want to see, like I've always said, I want to see good stories. And it's really hard to make a judgment on the story whenever you've only seen half of it. So I really hope that they're going to go.
No, but it really, like, next episode where they left us off, we need some like real serious stuff to happen in the next episode.
Yeah.
Okay. Couldn't get over her grief. Yeah, I do. Yes, I do recall that.
She couldn't let go of her attachments, couldn't let go of her grief.
Okay.
Anybody else, every time they see this, think like OSHA, like, the government agency that tells you you're using your ladder wrong. Sing songs on the internet about a world of OSHA violations. Sorry, I know that's a bit of a tangent, but literally every time I hear it, I was like, really? That's what we went with?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's only part of her name. That's a shortening of her name, but yeah, it's a kind of a funny one to go with. So what else? I mean, I think we've covered pretty much the episode.
I have one more thought.
Okay.
Why the heck aren't the twins identical when they're little and they're identical once they're grown? That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, that's a really good.
Yeah. So I think that maybe he's on to how the life was created.
Yes. And that would be if whoever the master is has ties to the coven, even if the character isn't one of the witches, even if they just have ties to the coven, then it would make sense that they're going after the Jedi who were there and witnessed it, because they don't want their secret out. Although it would make more sense if they just killed the twins.
Right. So that's the problem with May, with clouding whether May's thing is a personal vendetta, because now it appears that it's really not. Then why does this, and that's my problem now with Keimer as the big bad, as the villain here, is why would he care about it? It needs to be someone that has a motive for killing those 4 Jedi. And I think it's someone that doesn't want it to get out what was done.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is a pretty good hypothesis here.
Possibly. I don't know who it turns out to be. I mean, again, everything is kind of hinging on who the character is.
Yeah. But it really bothers me that the young version of the twins are not identical. And then they're identical and that's not how that works. Like, if anything, identical twins who are identical when they're tiny often look more alike as they get older.
Yeah, I mean, there could have been a host of reasons why they chose to work with. I mean, you work in the industry, you know the rules with kids, and that you can only have them on set for so long a day. And
right, but you could have found identical twins.
If you could have, but you still need a twin. You still need to find identical twins that are believable as the younger version of OSHA and May. It's not just any twins.
Right.
Like that's not necessary. I think it's fine. That doesn't bother me.
It does bother me. It's because, is it a story point or is it just to just believe that it happened this way?
No, I don't think it's a story point.
Okay.
I think that where I was going was knowing that you can only have, the easier thing to do if you wanted them to look identical was to use one actor to portray both parts.
Yeah.
But then you've got to have that kid on set twice as long.
Yeah, that's a no.
And knowing, the limitations on how long you can keep a kid on set.
Yes, which we wholeheartedly approve of.
No, yeah, for sure.
No taking advantage of children.
But I do think that's the reason. It really doesn't bother me. But yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I certainly notice it.
Every time they're not identical, I'm like, that's not how that works. But anyway, although, I mean, people tell me that my sister and I look more alike the older we get. So
maybe you do.
Maybe we do. I don't know. I mean, not that alike, but anyway.
Anything else? Because I think I've kind of said, I mean, I'm gonna stick with through 4 episodes. First episode of C, second episode of C, third episode of B, fourth episode back to a C. I'm gonna just call it a C. 4 episodes through.
That tracks. That's fair. I mean, I'm gonna keep watching it. I watched it at 8:00 last night when it came out. That hasn't been true for everything that Star Wars has ever made.
Yeah. Now, the thing for me is, I think that it's telling I think that the core of the story is a real interesting Star Warsy story.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's.
If we can tell it in a real interesting and Star Warsy way all the way to the end.
I think if you had done this story in like the Old Republic stuff, the Old Republic video game when they used to do those trailers and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anybody complains about this concept.
Yeah.
But it's now you're up against it. You got 4 episodes left, and it needs to be 4 really strong episodes.
Yep.
Like I said, I'm at a C average right now. I'll still give it an A if they close the story out in a really satisfying way.
Yep.
But I'm feeling more like Secret Invasion.
Oh God.
Where I kept saying, I hate it, I hate it, I hate it, but I'll be okay if they stick the landing, and then the landing was the worst part of the whole thing.
I really hate it. I didn't hate Secret Invasion up until the end. But you got to the end and it was like, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
That was so disappointing.
So overall, like I think that the show is average, maybe a bit below average in what I would like to be seeing from it. But I think the story is there for a very satisfying conclusion.
Yeah, I really hope that they deliver.
Yeah.
On all the things, all the best things.
Yeah. Anything else before we wrap up?
No. I mean, I'm the eternal Star Wars optimist. I'm always going to hope for it to end the with good things. So here's hoping.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It's Star Wars. I want it to be good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think this episode was, I made a joke. I'm sure I made people mad last night when I put out the banner for Star Wars. Nothing happens.
Yeah.
That's basically what 95% of that episode is Star Wars where nothing happened.
Yeah.
I don't mean that to like,
necessarily as a cut per se.
I mean, it's in jest.
Yeah.
Because at this point, like it's an episode, it's a piece of a whole.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't seen the whole yet. So, I'm always going to reserve most, unless something's real bad, unless something's so bad I can't keep tuning into it.
Yeah.
Then I'll usually give the benefit of the doubt and keep going. But it doesn't mean I'm not going to poke fun at things that deserve it.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I think I'm pretty much. Yeah, that's not the direction. Looky there.
Wow, you're turning into a Sith Lord.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, can I center it and make it all Sithy? Nope. All right. So the moral of this story is Marisha needs to angle her glasses in a better direction so as to get less glare.
Well, that's true, but by this time next week, I think we will be in the new studio setup. It's going to all look pretty different.
It's true.
So
exciting stuff.
Lights are going to get moved. Camera's going to get moved.
We won't have a little blinky light up here. The blinkies.
Hopefully.
It won't be in here. I mean, it won't be in your studio anyway. It'll just be just room.
But looking forward to showing y'all the new studio.
Yes.
If we can get that all set up by next week. Hopefully the electrician comes tomorrow.
Yes, that would be great. We would love the electrician to come tomorrow. All right, but anyway, so let's keep being optimistic and see how it goes next week.
Yep. All right. Thanks to everybody that tuned in. Andrew Haley, Jedi of Chicago. Who else was in here?
They're all gone.
They're all gone. Isaac was in here. Spencer was in here. Thank y'all for tuning in the middle of a work day.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's an odd time, but it was the time we had. So that's kind of the way this works sometimes.
Yep.
So that's it. All right. So you can find us, you can find the Twitter account for this show at crew_podcast, at CRU_podcast. Of course, this is all part of the Science Fictionary, which you can find on Twitter also at sci_fictionary. More stuff happening. I think we're actually recording a podcast episode for the Science Fictionary tomorrow. At least the last time we all talked, that was what we came up with, which will be our first time back in about 8 months.
Yes.
No, not quite that long.
Wait,
but close.
The Science Fictionary has been that long?
7 months.
Since we recorded an episode with David?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
You know who does know 100% for sure? Iana.
Oh, well, Iana's been on me at least that long because she hadn't had a new episode to listen to. So
yes, our most devoted follower regularly has commentary exactly how long it's been since she's gotten a new episode of her favorite podcast.
So be sure to check out all of our podcast friends over at the Red 5 Network at bio.link/Red5.
There we go, right there.
Down there.
The angle's weird on the screen. Like it looks like it should be that way, but it's that way. It's a whole thing.
It's true. If you want to join our Discord, check that out, or send me, if you can't find the link, hit me up on Twitter. I'll send you a link. We're also on Facebook. Coruscant Radio Underground and the Science Fiction Read both have Facebook pages. If you want to join us over there, we were going live on Facebook. Can't currently do that until we didn't start off. We only started doing Facebook late last year. So they changed the rules. We now need 100 followers on Facebook to go live over there. So if you're on Facebook and y'all already follow us everywhere else, please go follow us at Facebook so we can go live over there. We kind of had a few people over there that I think that's the only place they really check us out. So help us get back live over there. Somehow Palpatine returned.
Alas.
Check out our TeePublic page. We got a lot of cool designs up there, a lot of logo stuff, and some just funny stuff. So check that out. But that's going to do it. So we'll catch you next week for episode 5 of The Acolyte. Until then, may the Force be with you.
This podcast is a member of the Red 5 Network. For more Red 5 Network podcasts and content creators, visit bio.link/Red5.